This episode contains discussion of murder, domestic violence, sexual assault, drug and alcohol abuse, and sex trafficking. Listener discretion is advised.
Olivia Lone Bear went missing after a night out and was last seen driving a friend's pickup truck. The search for her was long and riddled with jurisdiction issues and lack of communication, but a determined Indigenous woman used her resources to find the missing mother of five. Though her body was found, there are still no answers in Olivia's case. Though Lissa Yellowbird has aided in the recovery of Olivia's body as well as hundreds of others in the North Dakota oil fields, she doesn't intend to stop anytime soon.
All right, so we have got a missing and murdered Indigenous women's case here for you guys. This one has, you guys know a lot of these cases don't have much information on them. This one is another one of those. It doesn't have enough information for the only focus of this episode to be on Olivia Lone Bear. So we're also going to talk about Lissa Yellowbird and the contributions that she has made and continues to make in this area. And it's really interesting. It's encouraging.
It's also disheartening, the statistics.
Yes. Yeah. So, I know these cases are just one of those things where it's like there are improvements being made, but not at the rate that it needs to be. And so it's like encouraging and disheartening all at the same time.
Right.
Like, yeah. We do want to give a hey girl thanks to Beth.
Yeah, for writing it up.
Yeah, and she chose the case. We didn't have it requested. She chose this one, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So we are going to get into Olivia Lone Bear's background, and I thought the best way to do this, Beth pulled a lot of this information from her actual obituary. So I was just going to read the obituary, because this is pretty much the only place we get information about her, unfortunately. Olivia Carey Lone Bear, who also went by Cedar Woman, was born in Stanley, North Dakota on October 11th, 1985 to Iris Sherman Forbear and Harley Tex Lone Bear. She was a child of the Dripping Dirt clan. Olivia received her Hidatsa name by her Magoo, Sophie Bell. I hope I'm saying these things right. Olivia graduated Head Start in 1991 from Four Feathers Head Start. She attended elementary and middle school in Newtown, North Dakota. She also did her freshman year at the Newtown High School, and it was then she moved to Brockton, Montana, and attended her sophomore year at Brockton High School. She then moved to Wellpennant, Washington, and completed her junior year at Wellpennant High School. Olivia became a mother in 2003, where her first daughter was born, Haley Abramson, which led Olivia to finishing her schooling through homeschool/independent studies and earned her high school diploma. During her school years, Olivia was active in basketball, volleyball, and cross country. In 2005, Olivia welcomed a son, Caleb, and 8 months later, he would make his journey to heaven. Olivia then began traveling, and being the free spirit she was, she moved back and forth from Wellpennant, Washington to Newtown, North Dakota until 2009. It was then she always knew Newtown was her home, and she moved back and made her life there, where she worked various jobs at the Four Bears Casino and Lodge. She loved working as a live games dealer. She also worked at the Edgewater Golf Course in Legion for a few years. During this time, Olivia's family would be complete when she welcomed JC, Layla, Dane, and Brody. Olivia was a hard worker and provided the best she could to take care of her children. She held a close bond with each of them and loved them dearly. She loved spending time with her kids, whether it was at home watching movies or attending their activities. She was so proud of her kids. Olivia enjoyed playing poker, golfing, planning trips, and going to various concerts. Olivia was always up for an adventure with family and friends. She loved being outdoors in the summer months. Olivia was an outgoing, smart, crazy, and loving person. She enjoyed hanging out with family and friends, just visiting and telling jokes. She was a best friend to many. Olivia also held a great respect and love for her dad. She lived with him and loved spending time and taking care of him. Haley was also a big help when it came to taking care of her grandpa. Her beautiful smile and loving personality will be deeply missed by all who knew and loved her. Olivia is survived by her father, Harley Tex Lone Bear, children Haley, JC, Layla, Dane, and Brody, sisters Marla Sloane Bear and Aaron Lone Bear Howe, brothers Malachi Forbear, Harley Roy Lone Bear, Houston Lone Bear, and Matthew Lone Bear, Magoo, Martha Fox Baker, all her many aunts and uncles and their families. She's preceded in death by her son Caleb, mother Iris Forbear, brother Jeray Forbear, Jessica Renee Rogers Phelan, and Jamie Paco Rogers, Uncle Del First. And actually, Jessica, that started with aunties. I just missed an entire word. So sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was only 32.
That is so sad.
That's so young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, and we're going to get into so many different things, but like just the senselessness of losing all these women, you know.
At the time of her disappearance, Olivia lived on the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation in Newtown, North Dakota. According to her brother Matthew, Olivia was pretty much always at home at this time. She was in between jobs and was doing her best to provide for and be with her children. And on October 25th, 2017, Olivia went to a local bar called the Sportsman's Bar with some of her friends. She was last seen leaving that bar in a teal Chevy Silverado 2500 HD LT with North Dakota plates that read 839 BRC, according to the 3 affiliated tribes police department, or the TATPD. Olivia's family believes that she stopped at home after the bar and before heading somewhere else that night. And in the days following her disappearance, they found her cell phone, wallet, money, and clothes that she wore that night to the bar at her home. After not hearing from her for 2 days, Harley, her dad, called the police to report his daughter missing. In the 2 weeks following the missing persons report, Detective Sam Lincoln of the TATPD stated that they combed through nearby waterways and there was no foul play suspected at that time.
Just put a pin in that. There was what they described as an extensive grid search after she disappeared that spanned like acres and acres.
Yeah. Just remember that.
Yeah. And like finding all her stuff, it's like, it's very obvious that she went home after the bar. The clothes she was wearing that night were there. Like,
but why would she leave her wallet and all the other,
be gone again. Yeah. And that's, I don't know, that's very, I think as a family member, you find that and you're like, okay, well, she did come home. But then why did she leave again? Where did she go? Like those things still being in the house, that's just so ominous, you know? Like,
yes.
That's like one of those like heart sinks into your butt kind of. And it reminds me of Last Stop Larima.
Oh, sure.
And I'm forgetting his name right now. I apologize. Patty, yes. Because same thing. He leaves the bar and his hat is there. So it's obvious that he did in fact go home, right?
Right.
So,
but he was never seen without his hat. So obviously something happened to him to either make him go outside abruptly or somebody took it, something like that. So same thing with her. Yeah,
exactly.
They found no signs of the teal truck Olivia was last seen in, and they stated that without the truck or Olivia, they would need to assign a detective to the case to be the focal point and contact for the family. They also said that the resources would then dwindle, and they also stated that authorities across North Dakota were searching for the missing mother of 5. In November, they invited the FBI to aid in the investigation. In December,
you gotta at least hand it to him for that, for inviting the FBI, because I know a lot of agencies don't want to do that. So that's, that's nice.
That is very nice. And it's awful that that's a rarity, like.
Yeah. And obviously the FBI can't, like, every time somebody's like, hey, can you do this? Obviously they can't join every single time, I'm sure. Like, you have to be selective about when you do that.
Right.
But we have seen lots of cases where it's kind of like the writing's on the wall. it calls for it and
they don't want any help. Yeah. In December of 2017, according to an NBC article, Matthew told Dateline that the TATPD wasn't being as helpful as they would have liked. He said that the family was getting help from outside people and agencies, but when those people would need to coordinate with the TATPD, they would be turned away. Matthew also said that investigators didn't come out to speak with them about Olivia until 5 weeks after she was reported missing. He says that it was the family who was leading the ground searches, but the Fort Berthold Indian reservations is almost 1 million acres. So
I mean, how you can't, like, there's no way. If it's just you, family, friends, even many members of the community that come out, there's just no way you can do everything.
I know. I feel like that is the definition of like a needle in a haystack, you know? Like that is just so much land to search.
Yeah.
In February of 2018, the Bureau of Indian Affairs with the BIA took over the investigation into Olivia's disappearance. Nedra Darling, the public affairs director for the BIA, stated that the tribe and her family asked the BIA Office of Justice Services to take over the case. The tribal police were there to assist the investigation still, but the BIA was now to be in charge. In an article in the Bismarck Tribune, volunteer searchers were to call Matthew Lone Bear directly if they were interested in assisting. Now, here's where we get into a little bit about Lissa. So Lissa Yellowbird Chase joined the search for Olivia right away, taking to social media to get the word out. Lissa has been searching for missing and murdered Indigenous people since 2011. She began searching on her own, but has since founded the Sanish Scouts in 2015 to search and recover missing people in Indian country. Lissa joined the ground searches in the immediate weeks following Olivia's disappearance, but once the winter set in, everybody had to put a stop to it, wait for everything to thaw out till spring, and once the lake had thawed and warm weather began, the search for Olivia continued. In July of 2018, Lissa and her team drove to one of the landings on Lake Sacagawea to begin a search below the surface. She had a 14-foot boat with a half-broken motor and fishing sonar with her. And she didn't consider herself an expert in boating or sonar, but she had a nagging feeling that this area needed to be searched. And she had a plan in mind for the search that day. Just a few hundred feet from the shore, the sonar picked up on a rectangular object sitting at the bottom of the lake. She took a photo of the object and sent it over to Keith Cormican, a technical diver and certified sonar operator from Wisconsin. Lissa considered Keith to be her mentor in sonar, and he runs the organization Bruce's Legacy and has located and recovered 27 at the time that this article was written for BBC by the High Country News. He recovered 27 drowning victims since 2013. Keith was certain immediately that it was a vehicle in the lake, and he told Lissa to keep taking pictures, but at different angles, so in different times of the day, so you could see shadows coming off of the object to try to make sure that that was exactly what they were looking at. The North Dakota Game and Fish Department, as well as the BIA, were contacted on July 31st, 2018, and a dive team went in. A tow truck backed up to the shore with an extra long two-strap, and after several hours, a pickup truck broke the surface and was pulled out of the lake. Olivia was found buckled in the passenger seat of the teal Silverado that she had borrowed from a friend, James Hoffinke, the night that she went missing. Olivia was found in about 1.5 miles from her home. A funeral was held in August of 2018 for Olivia Lone Bear in Newtown. At the time of her funeral, an official cause of death had not been released. The week following her funeral, a walk to honor Olivia and other missing Indigenous people was held. According to the BBC article, or to a BBC article, Olivia's family did not recognize Lissa Yellowbird Chase as being the person who found her. Matthew called her, quote, a thorn in their side, and stated that they had asked her to leave the search months before the discovery. Because of that tension, Lissa did not attend Olivia's funeral.
Yeah, and I'm still not really sure. It's
unclear.
Not totally clear what happened there, because in the beginning, it seemed to be a good relationship. And I listened to the Women in Crime podcast episode on Lissa Yellowbird. They covered her recently. I believe it was in March of this year. And there's a book about her, and they use that as one of their sources. But they said that it's, even in the book, it's not clear what the breakdown was, but it kind of seemed like maybe there was some, like, who's in charge, or if she had a differing opinion to the family of what we should do here or whatever, and it just kind of started deteriorating.
But it definitely did seem, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, that Lissa, while she was super helpful in these searches, she also didn't always have a great rapport or relationship with authorities and possibly the families as well.
Yeah, I think she's a strong personality. She, and that can sometimes rub people the wrong way. You know,
Sure.
There are some people who do great with that. There's some people who don't. And, I don't know. It's disappointing all the way around, you know, because it's like Olivia's family deserves justice. They deserve to know where she is. And Lissa definitely seemed to play a part in that. I mean, I know that her family, Olivia's family, doesn't recognize her as being the one that found her. And I don't know, just from what we know and the way the story is told, is that Lissa wanted to check that spot in the lake again, and then the truck was found. So,
right.
You know, it does sound like she definitely had something to do with it. But, yeah, but it is hard to know, like, really what happened
Exactly
there.
what, yeah.
It took over a year for investigators to release the autopsy report to the family and the public, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it really didn't help that much, because Olivia Lone Bear's cause of death was ruled as undetermined. The medical examiner noted that there was no definitive evidence of any traumatic, natural, or toxicological causes for her death. I don't know if that means that then there was no water in her lungs either.
Yeah. And
like, was she already dead when the vehicle went into the water?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is kind of strange though. Like, I mean, of course, I don't know if this plays into it. I would think so. They found her buckled in the passenger seat.
Right.
It's not like she passed out and drove herself into the lake or something.
Yeah, went in accidentally. Yeah, she absolutely was not part of the choice. So you would think that if she was awake and alert, that she would have at the very least gotten the buckle undone, trying to get out.
Right.
And also undetermined, like, they don't say that she drowned.
Well,
so
yeah, and I don't know. It's just, it's very confusing that they landed on undetermined and no,
and then the
traumatic,
the
natural, or toxicological.
Yeah, so it's not like she was drugged. Although I also don't know, you know, with her body being in the water that long, are some of those results skewed? Because she definitely seemed to be incapacitated in my mind, because
she's exactly where she was if she had been out of the water, in the water, right?
Yeah. So it's just, that's one of those things where you're just like, what's an explanation here?
I know.
What explanation? Like, how? I don't know.
I don't either.
There is a $10,000 reward offered for any actionable information that leads to the identification of the person or persons responsible for Olivia's disappearance and death. The investigation into Olivia's disappearance and death is still active, according to the U.S. Attorney Max Schneider. In 2023, there were unsealed court records that revealed that in May of 2022, FBI agents were granted a search warrant for Google location history data for any pings from any electronic devices that could have been in the area where Olivia's body was found on the night that she disappeared. According to the affidavit for this warrant, James Hoffenke, the friend whom she borrowed the pickup truck from, is one of the last people who had heard from Olivia. And so Olivia had texted James that night saying that she had been at a bonfire and then she's about to go mudding. Investigators interviewed several people, but none of them were able to identify anybody who might have been at a bonfire with her that night or who had gone mudding with her that night. There was just nobody to
have eyes on her that night.
Which is so... Okay, well then who was at the bonfire?
Well, right. And
was she alone?
It seems to me that maybe she went to the bar, she went back home, she was planning on going to this bonfire and then go mudding, but she didn't make it there. But like, wouldn't you have information from her, like cell phone records or Facebook or something that was like, hey, here's the party that we're having? Like,
yeah, who invited her to it? Who all was there? Did she in fact show up? Yeah, all those things. Like, it just, I don't know. And if you just don't know where she was going to go, then I guess you don't have
anything
the list
to start
of people
from,
that were
right?
there.
Sure.
Yeah, but like,
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like it's a tight community, so it just seems like somebody would have known which bonfire. Or as you go around and you talk to people and you say, did you go to a bonfire that night? Do you know of anybody who was having a bonfire? Oh yeah, this person was having a bonfire, but I didn't make it. Or, you know, like,
right.
Can we not? Do we have nothing?
I know.
It's so frustrating. Olivia's last text sent to James was at 10:24 p.m. on October 25th, 2017, and all it said was goodbye. However, it was not the last text that was sent from her phone. At 10:37 p.m., she texted a man. I'm actually not going to name him just because I don't know. You can find it if you Google the court records, I guess, but she had previously dated him, and at 10:37 p.m. she texted him that night. There's just so far no evidence that he has anything to do with it, and I just hate to like throw his name out there and people get all whatever bajiggity about it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Investigators also have Facebook records that show that Olivia's cover photo was changed at 11:24 p.m. and her phone was last used to access Facebook at 11:38 p.m. and then after that, there was no further outgoing activity. Olivia Lone Bear's case is still open and active, and there is still a $10,000 reward for information being offered. Anyone with information is encouraged to call 1-800-CALL-FBI, and that is 1-800-225-5324, or go to tips.fbi.gov.
All right, so we're going to get into some background on Lissa Yellowbird Chase. She is a member of the, and please forgive me, I'm hoping I'm going to say these sort of right, I don't know, Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation, and is an advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous men and women. And before stepping into this role, Lissa went through several hardships. During her childhood, her father was in the Air Force and was not very present in her life. Her mom, who had big dreams, was on and off in her life while she pursued her education. And while her mom studied to become the first female Native American professor in North Dakota, Lissa lived with other family members, mostly her grandmother. But when Lissa was 4 years old, she was sexually assaulted by a caretaker, and she never told the family about this incident. When she was in her teen years, she was also sex trafficked and got into drugs early in life.
We're going to talk about some statistics specifically for Indigenous women and the rates at which they are everything. Every violent act you can imagine is substantially higher than those for any other type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just...
this is heartbreaking.
Yeah, this is one person. She's sexually assaulted as a young girl and then sex trafficked. Like... Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
You wouldn't wish one of those on anyone, let alone
worst
both.
enemy, yeah.
Yeah.
My gosh. Like, how do you, and without access to therapy and, you know, easy access to therapy and all these things, like, what do you do? I mean, I don't know.
Honestly, and I hate that she went down the road of drug addiction, but it's no wonder she did, right?
Yeah,
like
you can't see why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just try to escape it any way you can.
Right. When she was 19, she had her first daughter, and she had 5 more children after this with different fathers who were reportedly not typically involved in their lives. Her children were taken away at a few different times by social services, but Lissa always worked hard to provide for her family and get her children back in her home. As a young mother, Lissa was in and out of homelessness, violent relationships, and addiction. Her main drugs of choice were crack cocaine and alcohol. During this time, though, Lissa never gave up. She worked several jobs while earning her degree in criminal justice at the University of North Dakota. She was a carpenter, a bail bondsman, an exotic dancer, and a prison guard before finally landing on something that she was passionate about. Eventually, Lissa found purpose by becoming a legal advocate for the 3 affiliated tribes. She handled civil, criminal, and family cases, but during this time, there was a train derailment that sent a cloud of ammonia over their town, and the chemicals almost killed one of her sons. And he was young.
What in the world?
I know.
What are the chances?
I know. Because of this, her cases were put on hold, and she spent about a year in and out of the hospital with her son, and she was in a really low place. One of her friends saw her being in a really low place and gave her methamphetamine to boost her up. This is when her life went on a downward spiral. She was still with the father of her youngest son, and the two were using and selling meth together. And she did love him. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like, thanks, friend, for seeing that I'm struggling.
But you
Thanks
now
for the offer.
You also now have caused this other significant problem in my life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she did love the father of her youngest son, and has said positive things about him, but he was also extremely abusive. He was jealous, he was possessive, and the last time he beat Lissa, he almost killed her and threatened to kill her children. And that's when she ended up leaving him for good. After the breakup, though, in 2006, Lissa missed her grandchild's first birthday. She was being arrested halfway across the state with a bag of methamphetamine and some cash. She hit rock bottom when she was sentenced to 10 years in a North Dakota prison for possession with the intent to distribute.
10 years. How many murder cases have we covered where somebody who has committed a murder gets less time than that? And then they're still out on good behavior.
On good behavior.
Violent rapes, you can get much less time.
Mm-hmm. Stalking, which is a violent crime. Yes.
Abduction.
Mm-hmm.
And she...
Attempted murder, which, as we all know, is a murder with a whoopsie.
Exactly. Like, the only reason that person isn't dead is because something else happened.
Right.
Or by some miracle of God, they just survived.
Right.
Like...
Or attempted rape or attempted whatever.
Yeah. And we've got... She was going to sell some drugs.
Yeah. One time, too, like, as far as I know, this was her first...
I think it was the first time she got caught. She and her husband were...
Oh, no. I understand that, but I'm saying, like, this is her first...
Oh, right. Yeah, that's her... Yeah, I think she'd been arrested before, but I don't know that it had been for intent to distribute before that. Yeah, I think maybe she'd been arrested on possession, but...
Right.
Also, like, what are you going to do? So, yeah, maybe it is, even if it is your however manyth time... of being arrested for possession or, drugs or whatever, like, okay, well, it's an addiction. So,
yeah. Sending him to prison doesn't always work.
No. I mean, and like, nobody starts anything and says, I hope I become addicted to this. And my whole life is just plagued by it.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Like, you can say if you do that, you're going to get in trouble. But I mean, it's not really, if any of these people could have stopped it on their own, they would have.
Absolutely. Nobody goes into it, like you said, choosing to have a life that is riddled with addiction. And
no.
Yeah. So
frustrating.
She ended up serving 2 years of her sentence, and she actually got out on good behavior, which is phenomenal, but she shouldn't have. I mean, 2 years is even maybe too much for me, but that was when she decided that she was going to change her life, and she got sober in prison, and when she was released, she was sent to a halfway house in Fargo. She lived in the halfway house for 10 months and then found an apartment in Fargo to live in and fix up while working as a welder.
She can literally do anything.
I was going to say, this woman has, name the profession, she has done it.
Mm-hmm. And done it well. Like, yeah.
She chose to stay in Fargo to be close to her children who were living with an uncle while she was incarcerated, and one by one, she did get her children back. For a year after her release from prison, Lissa stayed away from the reservation and her family, She had burned some bridges during her time of drug use, and she wasn't really ready to go home and face it. So eventually, though, her oldest daughter convinced her to go back. And when she did, she reconnected with both family and the reservation. Then in 2012, she learned about a 29-year-old oil field worker named Christopher K.C. Clark, who had disappeared from the Fort Berthold, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, Berthold, Indian reservation, and he was last seen by his coworkers at the office of the trucking company that he worked for. Lissa could not help but step in. She's got such she's such a driving force, but she has such, what's the right word? Why can't I think of the right word? She has so much determination to get involved and to find these people, which is just amazing.
Yeah, and she's not afraid to, like, go ask questions and talk to people, like,
nope.
Yeah.
She's obviously found a huge passion for it, but she's also, like you said, she's good at everything she does, and she's good at this too. Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
She had connections on both sides of the coin, law enforcement and criminals from her drug-related past, as well as her advocacy work. Lissa spoke with Casey's mom and helped spread the word through Facebook and social media, and she questioned people on the edges of the case as well as people who are very close to the case. Through her connections and questioning, she was able to aid the police in finding the persons responsible for Casey's death. While law enforcement wasn't always thrilled with her presence, like we talked about, I mean, she definitely had that strong personality that didn't help her get along with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
She was extremely helpful in getting answers, and Casey's murderers were sentenced in prison, but his body has never been found, unfortunately. Then in August of 2016, Lissa's own niece, Carla Yellowbird, went missing, and Lissa immediately went to work to find out where Carla had been last seen and who she was seen with. I just cannot, the amount of things that have either, I mean, that's directly affecting her, but like, so many things that one person has had to endure in a lifetime is just outrageous to me. Like,
yeah, a lot of the things that we talk about are things that you hear about that happen to other people, and you hear that in a lot of the cases too, the families that are affected, you know, or people that live in the town. That doesn't happen in our town, that happens somewhere else. That wouldn't happen to us, that would happen to someone else, you know.
Right.
And like Lissa, for example, she's been sexually assaulted herself. She's been sex trafficked. Her niece went missing. Like, this community of people are personally touched by these things and have several touch points to it. It's not like one person way down the line and I heard about that and it happened 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is constant, and
that's the thing too,
all
like,
the time.
Yes, what I was saying earlier with how driven she is to find these missing and murdered Indigenous people is just because you could say that, of course, she would want to find her niece because it's her niece, right? But she's even helping like Casey's family, Olivia's family. Like she doesn't stop until she finds who she's looking for, and that is just so amazing to me.
Yeah. And she's not being paid to do this either.
And she's using her own money to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
She took to social media. She posted the names of the 3 men Carla was last known to be seen with. And one of those men, Suna Guy, contacted her. And he called her several times and denied any involvement. But after a while, Lissa was able to wear him down. And he led her and the police to the killers and Carla's body.
She apparently, according to, I heard this on the Women in Crime podcast, she got fed up with him. She knew he had something to do with it. And he was like, no. And so she was like, okay, well, then I'm going to leave you. Like, stop talking to me. I'm not talking to you. You go and do whatever you're going to do. And then when you're ready to actually tell me the truth, then you give me a call. Like, basically, call me when you grow up. And she said that after that happened, she was like, I don't actually have his contact information. Like, he's the one that contacts me every time. So he could just choose to never call me back.
Oh, gosh.
And I couldn't do anything about it. Right.
That's risky.
And she was like, did I did I mess up here? Like, did I do the wrong thing? But he did end up calling her back.
Right.
And she, like you're going to go into, she does a lot to try to, I don't want to say reward him for that, but just like
acknowledge the what's the right word?
I mean, the position they could be in without that information.
Right.
You know?
There you go. So Carla had been killed in a robbery gone wrong. The men wanted her drugs and her money, and she lost her life in the process. Suna was only sentenced to 15 years in prison for his involvement, but Lissa spoke out on his behalf, trying to reduce his sentence because of his involvement in finding Carla. This caused a rift with her family that has yet to be mended, unfortunately. And as we know, Lissa was also involved in Olivia Lone Bear's case, but she has aided in hundreds of searches for missing Indigenous persons, and she is the go-to person when someone is missing a loved one. Like I said, I mean, it's just, I'm astounded at her drive. But at this point, Lissa's life is dedicated to finding missing and murdered Indigenous people, and she does it on her own dime. Like I said, in 2013, she founded the Sanish Scouts with family and friends. This organization responds to disappearances of people in the Bakken oil fields of North Dakota. More than 100 families have sought their support, and the Sanish Scouts website lists several ways for you to get involved. You can follow their Facebook page for updates and up-to-date information. You can join a search. You can start a sister organization, and they would be glad to help with guidance and training, which is amazing. And you can also donate gas, money, or help to fund their bigger projects.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, even something as small as posting about this episode.
Sharing a post or something short.
Yeah, sharing like anything. It doesn't have to be our episode. It can be any episode about a case involving a missing or murdered Indigenous person. Like, if you can't financially help, raising awareness helps. Like, you as a listener or viewer on TV or whatever, YouTube, viewing and listening to cases like this, it's a sad fact for us, and I've talked to other true crime podcasters too, and everybody notices a dip in listeners when we cover a case like this. So it takes everybody, you know, like for whatever reason it is, if you're just not drawn to these types of cases or whatever, listen to it, share it. Like, that's an easy way to do your part, and you don't have to pay any money to do that.
That's true. Very good point.
Indigenous women and girls are murdered 10 times more than any other ethnicities, and murder is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women, according to the Center for Disease Control, CDC. There are more than 4 out of 5 Indigenous women at 84.3% that have experienced violence, and more than half at 56.1% have experienced sexual violence. 48.8% have been stalked in their lifetime. Indigenous women are 1.7 times more likely than white women to experience violence and 2 times more likely to be raped. The murder rate of Indigenous women is 3 times higher than white American women.
I just cannot believe that the numbers are so very high. And every woman has heard the statistics because as women, we are more likely across the board to experience all those things, right? But Indigenous women are experiencing it at such a higher rate. And it's just, I don't have words.
Yeah, because we just finished on Doc Jams covering victim suspect. And they said on there just a general stat for, you know, rape, sexual assault for women in general is, well, people in general, because they also give a stat for men. They say 1 in 4 women will experience a sexual assault of some kind in their lifetime, and 1 in 6 men will, which is much higher for men than I thought it would be.
Yeah, same.
Honestly. But even, and those are staggering numbers there. And this is more than half. So this is 1 in 2 Indigenous women will experience sexual violence. And what else do we know about these kinds of things? They are vastly underreported.
So that's just what we know.
That's just what we know. According to nativewomenswilderness.org, there have been several initiatives and landmarks in recent years. On May 5th, 2019, the White House officially designated that day as the National Day for Missing and Murdered Native Women and Girls. That same year, Executive Order 13898, or Operation Lady Justice, created a task force for missing and murdered Native American peoples that will address the concerns that Indigenous communities in the United States have, such as data collection, policies, establishing cold case teams, and improving investigative responses. In 2020, Savannah's Act went into law, and this requires the Department of Justice to review, revise, and develop policies and protocols to address the cases of MMIP. The Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, announced the formation of the Missing and Murdered Unit in 2021. And this unit will focus on analyzing and solving missing and murdered Indigenous peoples' cases. Savannah's Act is based on or
Is a result
initiated by, a case that we covered on April 21st, 2021. So that was Murder Mixtape 108. If you want to listen to it, it is a Patreon exclusive case. You know what? I'm going to just unlock it for everybody. If you go to our Patreon, patreon.com/killerqueenspod, and you type in search post for Savannah 108, one of those things. So her name is Savannah LaFontaine Graywind. She was 22 years old. She was 8 months pregnant, and an upstairs neighbor asked her for help with something. Nobody ever saw her again. She cut Savannah's child out of her womb to keep for herself. She murdered this woman. The child miraculously survived. But that case inspired Savannah's Act. And that was in 2017, so it took a few years for it to go into effect. But anyway, if you go to our Patreon and you navigate to that, it will be unlocked even if you don't pay, because it's, oh my gosh. Native Women's Wilderness also notes that data collection is still difficult due to poor record keeping, underreporting, racial misclassification, and media coverage or lack thereof. The statistics from law enforcement and media reports create an inaccurate picture of the violence Indigenous women and girls face because they tend to minimize the extent of that violence. There are several movements and campaigns for MMIW. The founders of two organizations came together, Native Women's Wilderness and Indigenous Women Hike, along with Native artists to create an image to honor and support the campaign. They use the hashtag MMIW, and hashtag No More Stolen Sisters. The official color of the MMIW movement is red. Red is known to be the only color spirits can see in many tribes, so they wear this color to call back the missing spirits of women and children so that they can be laid to rest. The image created is of an Indigenous woman with a feather in her braid and a turquoise earring in the shape of a teardrop. The teardrop represents their sorrow and tears, and turquoise is worn by many tribes for protection to ward off evil spirits and is also a symbol of strength and prosperity. How beautiful.
I know. It is gorgeous. For real.
It's just, yeah.
One thing that's, I guess it falls under the umbrella of media coverage, I guess. But the reward, we've seen $100,000 rewards for white women, let's just say. And in Olivia's case, Olivia Lone Bear, the reward for her is $10,000, which $10,000 is a lot, but compared, I'm like, and honestly, I mean, you shouldn't have to have a reward to do the right thing and talk about this kind of stuff, but it does help, obviously. Right, yeah. It's just, I just don't understand why missing and murdered Indigenous women or Indigenous people do not get the exposure.
Right, yeah. Because
the resources,
Yeah, another thing that exposure really helps is, say there is someone who had information about it. Like we know in Olivia's case, the law enforcement didn't even talk to her family for 5 weeks after. So if this had gotten out there and they were knocking on doors and talking to more people and all those things, there might have been somebody who said, oh, she was supposed to go to a bonfire. I was at a bonfire.
Right.
Or I saw her or whatever. And it may be something that like, I didn't know she was missing. I didn't know that you needed the information that I had.
Right.
So having that exposure out there can reach so many different people who are like, wait a second, I actually have something you might be able to use, or I didn't realize you could use what I had. I didn't think it was important. We hear that a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think what I knew had anything to do with it, and blah, blah, blah. So you don't necessarily need a reward for that. The exposure can help with that. Rewards can help too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of things that need to change. With this in particular. And especially with it being an election year, like we're not going to get like political one way or the other, but who you vote for makes a difference. Who you vote for in your local elections makes a difference. Like it's just, those are things to consider when you're looking at any type of a candidate, and especially in the, justice system part of things, your DAs, your law enforcement, your, all of these things, like anything where you have a say, those are things that matter,
Absolutely,
so like those are things that you can consider when looking into those.
Yes. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We love you, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye.